Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important people on the entire planet. Seriously, we're talking about a guy who went from cleaning toilets at a reform school to building the company that is, right now, powering the entire AI revolution. His name is Jensen Huang.
I mean, let's just start right here. When Mark Zuckerberg says you're the Taylor Swift of tech, you've hit a completely different level of fame. This isn't just about being a successful CEO anymore. This is about becoming a full-blown cultural icon. And the numbers, they're just mind-boggling. Some analysts are predicting that his company, NVIDIA, is on track to be the first company ever to soar past a $5 trillion market cap. Yeah, that's a T for trillion. It's a number so big, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around it. So that's really the big question we're tackling today, right? How did this happen? How did this one guy from such an unbelievable background end up building the absolute engine of our modern world? Well, let's get into it.
So, to really get the man, you have to first understand the phenomenon he is today. You know, his public appearances, especially in Taiwan where he was born, they don't just draw a crowd. They create an absolute frenzy that the media has started calling Jensanity.
You remember Linsanity, right? That explosion of excitement around the basketball player Jeremy Lin? Well, Jensanity is the same idea. It describes this rock star reception Jensen gets. We're talking crowds, paparazzi, the whole deal. This is not your typical tech CEO. He's a global celebrity. But to really get who he is, we have to go way back, all the way back to the beginning. And let me tell you, his journey is not your classic Silicon Valley story. It actually starts with a huge mistake and a lot of hardship. Okay, just try to picture this for a second. You're 9 years old. Your parents send you to America for a better future, but there's a mix-up and they accidentally enroll you and your brother in the Oneida Baptist Institute in Kentucky. They thought it was a fancy boarding school, but it was actually a religious reform school for troubled kids. And this is where you really see what he's made of. His job every day was cleaning toilets. He got bullied all the time. But here's the thing. Instead of breaking, he figured out a way to survive. He made a deal with his tough 17-year-old roommate who couldn't read. Jensen said, "I'll teach you to read," and in return, his roommate taught him how to bench press. That's just pure grit right there. And he didn't just get by, he excelled. This timeline just shows this incredible, relentless drive. By the time he's 14, he's so good at table tennis, he gets featured in Sports Illustrated. He skips 2 whole grades, graduates high school at 16, and then just plows through some of the best engineering schools in the country. So where does all that drive lead? Well, it leads to him starting his own company. After working as a chip designer for a while, he decided it was time to build something himself. And the place where this tech giant was born is probably the last place on Earth you would guess. A Denny's. Yep, a Denny's diner. The multi-trillion-dollar company that's now defining our future was dreamed up in a booth over what he remembers as just cheap coffee. It's like the ultimate Silicon Valley startup story, but with a Grand Slam breakfast twist. And the actual founding was almost casual. It was really just 3 super smart engineers hanging out. They saw a big opportunity coming in graphics for PC gaming, which was just starting to take off. And they basically said, "Hey, let's do this." And their startup capital? Get this. $600 total. Not $600,000, just $200 from each founder's wallet to file the paperwork. It's just incredible. But that humble, almost easy beginning quickly turned into an absolute battle for survival. The first few years for NVIDIA were just brutal, and that experience pretty much defined the entire culture of the company forever. For years, this is how Jensen Huang started company meetings. With this exact sentence. It became their unofficial motto. And he wasn't just being dramatic. At one point, it was literally true. They had 1 month of cash left to make payroll. It created this intense, almost desperate sense of urgency that never went away. And you can hear the toll it took in his own words. He's actually admitted that if he'd known just how unbelievably hard it would be, all the pain and suffering involved, he probably wouldn't have even started. That's a shockingly honest thing for a founder to say, and it tells you everything about the reality of what they went through. But they made it. They survived. And that struggle put them in the perfect position to make a pivot that would literally change the world. They went from being a company that made chips for gamers to building the hardware that makes all of artificial intelligence even possible. Okay, so here's the genius move. Think about it like this. A normal computer chip, a CPU, is like a single cashier at a grocery store, handling one customer at a time, really fast. But a GPU, the kind they were making for video games, is like having thousands of cashiers working all at the same time. Huang had this incredible insight that this parallel processing power was the perfect tool for the huge, complex calculations needed to train AI. It was a massive bet that connected two totally different worlds.
And the payoff from that one big bet? Well, it's been absolutely astronomical. Just look at this chart of his personal net worth. We go from $3 billion in 2019 to over $100 billion just a few years later. That's what happens when your company becomes the single most critical piece of hardware for the biggest technological shift in a generation.
So, that brings us to the man today. He's not just a CEO running a company, he is the architect of this new era we're all living in. And the way he leads is just as unique as his story.
His leadership style is really something else. He doesn't have his own office. He just kind of roams around headquarters. He has about 60 people who report directly to him, which is crazy because he believes his top people need the least amount of managing. Oh, and he famously doesn't wear a watch. Why? Because for him, now is the most important time.
And now he's giving back in a big way. Through their foundation, he and his wife Lori are pouring money into the very things that shaped his own life: higher education and STEM programs. And in this really beautiful full circle kind of moment, they've given millions back to Oregon State, where he got his degree, and even to the Juanita Baptist Institute in Kentucky. They funded a new building at the very same reform school that was the site of his toughest years.
So we're left with this one last enormous question. Jensen Huang didn't just build a company. He built the engine that's driving a massive global change. The question isn't what he has built anymore. It's what he, and really what all of us, are going to build with it.